He said, I made you in my image and my likeness. How foolish we are to believe that I can begin to understand and reveal the reality of the depth of who I am, separate from actually introducing ourselves to the presence of the one we've been built like. I've taught you that every common person in Israel had access to this, even to the foreign people. They had access to the courtyard of the tabernacle. But the first thing that everybody encounters is an altar. And then in that altar, there must be a sacrifice. Everybody that approaches the tabernacle to meet with God must bring sacrifice. And this activity went forth regularly, daily. And I know I said something a few weeks back about that an altar in the right concept of meeting with God. This is called the tabernacle of meeting. And it doesn't just have Old Testament connotation to it. It speaks very loudly and presently to us. But remember that everything that it was external in the Old Testament now becomes internal through Jesus Christ. So in the same way that the children of Israel approached God in an external way, now we approach God from within. But it's still the same heart, the same pursuit, and the same process. Here's something that I need us to know, is that we have caught on to this theology that Jesus, because Jesus came and because Jesus died, that he did away with the law. And that because Jesus came and died, that the law was abolished and no longer do we have to give ourselves to the law. We get to function in grace. Let me bring you to a right understanding of what grace is. Had it not be for God's grace, you wouldn't have entrance to meet with him. If it not be for God's grace, you wouldn't have an invitation into the most holy place with him. It's grace that's actually pulling you to the meeting. Are you following me? It's grace that's actually pulling you into the meeting. But we still cannot bypass the way that God said we must meet with him. And so every person that desires to meet with God must go through an altar. And in that place of an altar, we don't approach an altar the way that we believe we approach an altar, because in our 21st century theology, we approach an altar so that we can enjoy the pleasures of guilt-free emotion. I'm going to let y'all catch up. Y'all still in the glory right now. We approach an altar so that my pleasures can be lifted. So that I can feel normal again and not have the weight of the guilt of my yesterday. And when we do not approach God the way that, when we do not approach God the way that God invited us, but also directed us to approach him, we really don't enter into normality at all. We deceive ourselves by emptying the idea, the feeling of guilt, and yet we're still stuck without an identity. Because the only place that you and I can access the reality of who we truly are and our identity is when we enter deeper into the most holy place, because you cannot locate yourself, your true self, outside of his presence. And so in order for you just to know who you are, you must go deeper in him. He said, I made you in my image and my likeness. How foolish we are to believe that I can begin to understand and reveal the reality of the depth of who I am, separate from actually introducing ourselves to the presence of the one we've been built like. We run around struggling to find out who we really are and never run to the answer of the one that knows exactly who we are, and we can actually see the picture of it when we enter that presence. Read the first 4 books of your New Testament, what we call the Gospels. Because what God did is God said, I realize that in your depravity and in your deficiency, that you'll never be able to locate who you are and what you're supposed to look like and how you're supposed to function. And so I'm giving you a picture. Since you're such sensual people, oh man, I could back down this trail. Since you have been deceived to function by your senses and not by your spirit, I'll meet you where you're at. And I'll give you something that satisfies your eyesight in order to find its way to your heart. So I'll send myself in flesh. I'll send myself so that you can actually see what you look like before you even get there. But we have this philosophy that we've been so deceived. I don't know what it is about our preachers in the way that we have preached the way. We've preached the way. We've preached the entryway, the gate. And yet still giving people a free pass to move away from the truth and the life. I'll show you the way, but I won't hold you accountable to the truth and the life. There's something conflicting about something that will introduce you to where common people hang out, but never call you to where glory people hang out. There's something about a deceptive spirit inside the church. I don't know why I'm going here, but my God. Inside the church that will paint a picture of an ideology of freedom and yet actually deceive you from accessing the thing that calls you to life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. There's only one way to life. And what we cannot escape is the way, but we have to go through the truth. And in order for you to find life in the kingdom, something must die. Unless a seed fall to the ground and die, it cannot actually begin to live. For a seed is not actually what it is, but it is only the incubator for the possibility of what's been created in it. And yet, watch, we are satisfied with staying in seed form. Because I just want to be a part of the package, but never have to go in the ground.